Hello. My last videos got many views and many people in comments can't understand why am I supporting Russia. So I decided to make this video about reasons why am I pro-Russian. Firstly, I wanted to make a long video, in the first half of which I am telling about situation before full-scale war, and in the second part I would tell about destruction of Mariupol, Nazism and current situation. But then I decided to make two different videos. In this one I will tell you why I became pro-Russian long before this war. And there will be a second part where I will tell you who destroyed Mariupol and how Ukraine tries to stop Mariupol revival even now. Before going to this video, I wanna say that I created a Telegram channel where I am posting information about videos and some more content. Link is in the description, and as always I wanna ask you to leave a like and a comment, and if you really like my videos you can send me a donation to motivate me to make more. Links are also in the description. Now about the reasons that made me pro-Russian long before this war. I will not talk much about 2014 events because I was a child. In 2014 I just knew that Russia is good and many people I know hated Ukraine, and later in school I faced many pro-Ukrainian propaganda, like Ukrainian anthem every day, military agitation, etc. I will talk more about this propaganda later in this video, but I started to form my own opinion only in 2021 when I learned history of Russia and history of Ukraine. I understood that Ukrainians are just the same as Russians. There are some difference between Ukrainians, Siberians and Far East Russians, but it isn't significant enough to consider Ukrainians or Siberians not Russian. There are different surnames in Ukraine, own accent, but there is no real difference, since Siberians had their dialect too, but they're still Russians. Culture is the same stereotypes, same mentality, and when I was a kid, like 5 years old, I considered myself Russian. I asked some friends, even pro-Ukrainian, and everyone have same situation. I also had some friends from Russia, so I've seen that there is literally no difference between us. And those stupid people who writing in my comments about Russian colonization, do they really think that like New York citizens can colonize Arizona? Now there is only one difference between Russians and Ukrainians. Most of people who call themselves Ukrainian hate Russian people and everything Russian. In every Ukrainian language chat, every website, even non-political, infinite hatred to Russia, and it's their only idea and only difference from other Russians. And the same thing with history. Ukraine never was a sovereign state, always been a part of Russia or Poland or Austro-Hungary, at least before 1917, which is almost yesterday. And also in Ukrainian history lessons in school we studied a lot about Cossacks from Sich, from Zaporozhye, who was the first Ukrainians, but in fact Sich Cossacks were just organized mercenaries or even bandits, and not a nation for sure. Also, Ukraine tries to convince everyone that medieval Russia was a Ukraine. It's funny to translate it in English because in Russian language we have different words for old Russia, Ruсь, and for modern Russia, Россия. And in English it's the same word. Anyway, Ukrainian history tells us that before Moscow became the capital of Russia, Russia was a Ukraine. This is why coat of arms of Ukraine is the family coat of arms of first Russian leaders. But in fact, the word Ukraine, Ukraina, came from the word outskirt, Ukraina. The difference is only one letter, because Ukraine is just part of Russia with the same peoples. Also, one of Ukrainian propaganda takes is that Ukrainians are real slaves, while Russians are Mongols, Tatars and other Asians. This propaganda of racial superiority looks very familiar from history, you know. And anyway, exploring different sources, I made the conclusions that all of this is just bullshit created to divide Russian nation. And after 2014, Ukraine is just destroying Russian culture. I'm still talking about 2021, because now everything is 100 times worse, and I will tell more in my next video on this topic. Back in 2021, my 11 years old cousin from Poltava couldn't read in Russian, despite he was born in Russian-speaking family. I think 10 or 20 more years and language barrier will be completed. And I want to remind you that there was no Ukrainian language in most of Ukraine before 2014. And of course I want to say more about language law that was accepted in summer 2021. And maybe it was the first moment for me when I understood that I really don't like Ukraine. Russian language was forbidden everywhere. You could still speak Russian with no problems, but it's the only thing you could do in Russian, because education in Russian was forbidden. Cinema, concerts, advertisements in Russian, everything in Russian was forbidden. And also if cashier or taxist would speak Russian to you and you didn't ask them for it, they could be fined on 8,000 hryvnias. But fortunately some of my teachers just ignored this law and continued to teach us in Russian. And the main thing I hate in Ukraine is ultra-patriotism and radical nationalism, which in fact is just hatred towards Russia. Before war it was kind of funny for me, and since 2022 it isn't anymore. So many people died because of it. Ukrainians are proud of many great achievements, such as making the biggest flag of Ukraine and making the biggest coat of arms of Ukraine in the world. And in Ukrainian school I learned that Ukrainians always were better than Russians, even before both Ukraine and Russia existed. And there were also many events in school, and on every of them we listened how great Ukraine is and how Russia is suck. I also remember the moment when teacher got an instruction to tell us how good guys from Azov and other battalions are. And our teacher just said us that when those heroes in 2014 entered the village with her parents, they shot at all dogs and screamed that they need blood. Propaganda was on all levels. Ukraine also painted everything in blue and yellow, even when it was looking ugly, and it made me sick. And again, all of this propaganda was with the sense of superiority of Ukrainian nation over those Eastern barbarians. I never really understood what did Ukraine achieve. Country where industry is stolen, everything is even more corrupted than in Russia. And about development, I was in Kiev in 2019, and even capital of Ukraine is less developed than Russian cities with a million population. Ukraine has literally nothing to be proud of, but at the same time, such pride and arrogance as if it is the richest, the most ancient, and of course the strongest country in the world. Of course I can say many more, but I think it's enough for today. In the second part I will tell you how situation changed with this war. And if this video was interesting for you, you can leave a like and a comment, or send me a donation if you want to. Have a nice day!